I never expected a child's simple ring to unveil a heartbreaking secret. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was a cloudy afternoon, the kind where shadows danced and the air felt heavy with secrets. I stood there, staring at my daughter, her tiny hands clutching something glimmering. A simple ring. But not just any ring. It was an old, tarnished band, with intricate designs swirling around its surface. In that moment, my heart raced. After all these years, why did this little piece of metal stir something deep inside me? I could barely breathe. I had to know more. My mind spun like a whirlwind, each question pulling me further into a storm of memories. Who had this ring belonged to? Was it just a child's trinket, or was it something more? My daughter, Lily, with her innocent blue eyes, asked if it was pretty. There was something powerful in her soft voice, a gentle reminder of the love that wrapped around us like a warm blanket. But as I took the ring from her, I felt a chill. It was cold, unnaturally so. The edges seemed to whisper secrets meant only for me. I thought about my family. My dad always said the past holds shadows we must face. I had tried to bury the pain deep where it couldn't reach me. But here I was, staring at the very thing that could unravel it all. My hands trembled as I recalled the late night, whispered arguments between my parents, the way my mother's laughter had faded over the years. How her smile had become a picture of weariness. Suddenly, I sensed the weight of the room shifting. Shadows crept in the corners, telling stories I was too afraid to hear. Lily's laughter faded into silence, and all I could hear was my heartbeat echoing in my ears. The past, the family turmoil, it all collided with this ring in my hand, and I felt the weight of the world collapse upon me. Then came a knock at the door. It was my brother. Fraught with urgency, his eyes held a surprising mixture of anxiety and longing. He had never come over unexpectedly. Not since everything had happened. When I opened the door, I caught a glimpse of something lurking beneath his tough exterior. "Do you have it?" he asked, voice shaking. Did he know? My heart raced faster at the thought. The ring, the history, all the connections surged swiftly like a tidal wave. Would this discovery bring us together or tear us apart? And just as I opened my mouth to respond, the ring slipped from my fingers, clattering to the floor. The sound echoed loudly, piercing through the tense atmosphere like a gunshot. All eyes were now on it, the once innocent ring now a harbinger of secrets. My chest tightened, and I felt the world begin to spin. What did this mean? As I froze, the truth lay just out of reach, hovering like a ghost, waiting for me to take the next step. But what if I wasn't ready? What if uncovering the past was more than I could bear? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference, let's connect. As the ring rolled to a stop, an unsettling silence enveloped the room, thick and suffocating. My brother's eyes flickered from the ring to me, a mixture of hope and trepidation painting his features. It felt as if the air had been sucked out of the space between us, leaving behind a void populated only by unspoken words. The ring, without my touch, seemed to pulse with memories both familiar and foreign, drawing me deeper into the abyss of our shared past. Do you have any idea what that is? My brother's voice barely rose above a whisper, as though he feared that speaking too loudly might shatter the fragile web of understanding we had yet to weave. I opened my mouth to respond, but no words came. Instead, visions surged within me, swirling like a storm, memories of happy afternoons overshadowed by hushed conversations and lingering glances that hinted at turmoil. Lily, sensing the charged atmosphere, stepped closer, her small fingers reaching for the ring again. "Can I pick it up, Mommy?" Her innocent voice stirred something within me, a reminder that amidst the turbulence, there was still hope, still love. I nodded, forcing a smile that felt more like a mask than genuine warmth. "Be careful, sweetheart," I said, my heart pounding not from fear of the ring's secrets, but from fear of unraveling the tapestry of our lives. I watched as Lily scooped up the ring, her tiny face lighting up in wonder, oblivious to the dark clouds looming over us. That I turned back to my brother, who was now pacing the room. His movements seemed frantic, restless. "It's not normal, you know. This ring, our family's history, there's a reason Mom kept it hidden. We need to figure out what it means." There was a desperation in his voice that mirrored the storm inside me. "I don't think I began, but the words faltered on my tongue, choked by the weight of recollections that rose from deep within. Memories of family dinners laced with tension, of whispered accusations buried under feigned laughter. Could I bear the burden of unearthing them now? A soft sob broke through my thoughts. My gaze snapped to Lily, who was staring at the ring, her expression shifting from excitement to confusion. "Why are you sad, Mommy?" she asked, her youthful innocence cutting through the heavy air. The question hung there, a suspended note waiting for resolution. I knelt beside her, heart aching. "I'm not sad, honey. Just thinking." Yet the truth seeped through. The sadness wasn't just mine, it was our family's legacy, a heritage of unresolved pain and unacknowledged truths. "Why don't we go outside?" I suggested, desperate for a breath of fresh air to clear the heavy fog lingering in my mind. To my surprise, my brother nodded, stepping towards the door, his shoulders less rigid. We stepped onto the porch, the light of a waning sun casting long shadows. An ordinary evening sky hung above us, unaware of the turmoil brewing beneath the surface. As we settled into silence, I took a tentative breath, hoping the crisp air would cleanse my thoughts. "That I never told you, did I?" My brother finally broke the silence, his voice low. I turned to him, curiosity pricking at my heart. "About how Mom found that ring. No, I said, hardly able to muster a whisper. The steady thump of my heart echoed within, anticipation rising. His gaze turned distant, as if summoning courage from a well long untouched. "She found it the summer before everything changed. The summer she started keeping secrets." There was a heaviness in his words that sank into my chest, clenching around my heart like a vice. "She said it belonged to great-grandma, remnant of a love story gone wrong." That it seemed the shadows I had tried to dismiss were now closing in on me, tangible and real. With every word, the pieces of our fractured history began to converge, threatening to unravel the very fabric of who we were. But my thoughts were interrupted by a sudden laughter echoing from down the street. I turned, seeking distraction, and saw a neighbor assisting an elderly man across the sidewalk. Strangers uniting in small acts of kindness, it struck me as a simple reminder that even amidst chaos, goodness persisted. Yet just as quickly as that thought blossomed, a chilling realization struck me. The neighborhood had begun to change. Faces I once recognized were now replaced by newcomers. A wave of anxiety washed over me. What if this ring held answers I wasn't prepared to confront? What if it echoed the family secrets I wished to leave buried? With those thoughts cascading in my mind, I glanced at my brother, a worry etched into the lines of his face. I could see the glimmer of unvoiced emotions: fear, determination, perhaps even regret. Before I could voice my fears, a sudden sound sliced through the evening, a shattering noise, like glass breaking. We both turned in its direction, our hearts racing, dread creeping up my spine. In the distance, a figure was standing atop the driveway, silhouetted by fading sunlight, swaying slightly as if they were a puppet caught in a storm. As the person fell to the ground, I felt time freeze. My breath hitched, stomach knotting violently. The events of the day felt like a tightly wound coil, ready to unleash its tension. I looked at my brother, our eyes locking in shared trepidation, and then I knew, whatever truths were contained in that ring were now closer than I dared to imagine. "Let's go," he urged, and with that, the emotional journey I had fought to control surged ahead, as the weight of the past met the dangers of the present. A storm was brewing, and it was only just beginning to unleash its fury. The figure lay motionless, the fading light of dusk casting long shadows across the driveway, momentarily transforming the once familiar space into a landscape of fear and uncertainty. Panic surged through me as I instinctively reached for Lily, whose heart-shaped face was now marred by confusion and concern. I could feel her small hand grasp mine tightly as if anchoring herself against the encroaching dread. "Do you think they're okay?" Lily's voice trembled, innocent stark against the backdrop of chaos. I wanted to reassure her with the promise of safety, but the gravel beneath my feet felt like quicksand. I glanced at my brother, his face a mask of determination as he took a step toward the fallen figure. "Stay here," he said, voice steady, though I noticed a faint tremor just beneath the surface. I seized the moment, forcing an expression of calm as dread clawed at my insides. "I'll go with you," I asserted, stepping forward despite the panic that bubbled up within me. The stories and silences of our past rushed back to me, whispering warnings, but the reality of the present demanded my attention. Together, we moved cautiously toward the figure, each step heavy with the weight of the unknown. As we approached, I could finally discern the figure's features: a young man, perhaps in his late 20s, dressed in a worn t-shirt and jeans that seemed out of place in our neighborhood. The sunlight reflected off something shiny at his wrist, dizzying familiarity washed over me. A shiver ran down my spine. "Hey, are you all right?" My brother's voice was laced with urgency as he knelt beside the man, his hands gently shaking his shoulder. When there was no response, fear began to twist the fabric of my mind into knots. I could feel the night air growing colder, thickening with unspoken fears and unanswered questions. My eyes darted around a dimly lit street, half expecting to see the ghostly outlines of our past repressed memories taunting me, waiting to surface at the worst moments. "Help!" Lily's voice pierced through the suffocating silence as she twisted her small body, pointing at something beside the man. I shifted my gaze, heart pounding as I noticed the glint of something metallic, a small key, shining like a beacon amidst the chaos. It seemed innocent, yet the moment felt charged with significance, as if it were a piece of a puzzle that didn't fit. "What's this doing here?" I whispered, bending down to retrieve it. The cool touch of the metal sent shockwaves through me, memories blossoming like dark flowers. "Do you know him?" my brother asked, his eyes still glued to the motionless figure. I shook my head, my mind racing. Assertions about our family's past were fighting for dominance. Could this someone somehow be connected to the ring? Questions spiraled out of control, each one more unsettling than the last. "Please, I need help." The man's voice broke through the haze as he stirred, blinking rapidly, pain etched into his features. My brother and I snapped our attention back to him, our hearts hammering in sync. The man's gaze landed on me, a flicker of recognition flashing across his eyes before it quickly morphed into confusion. "The ring, you have it, don't you?" he gasped, as if the weight of his words pressed heavily upon the air between us. My heart sank, a wave of disbelief washing over me. "What do you know about it?" I demanded, a mixture of anger and fear seeping into my voice. The domestic tranquility of our neighborhood felt as far away as the stars in the darkening sky, and in its place lay a chasm of dread. "Please," he breathed, struggling to sit up. "The answers you seek, they're tied to the ring. You have to listen." His eyes bore into mine with an intensity that made my skin prickle, yet I felt an unyielding need to know more. An unsettling silence hung in the air, punctuated only by the distant sounds of crickets beginning their evening serenade. I cast a glance back at Lily, whose eyes widened in uncertainty as she drew close to me. I needed to protect her from whatever darkness loomed ahead, yet I was drawn inexorably to the man's plea that "We can't just leave him here." My brother finally spoke, breaking the paralysis of the moment. I nodded, resolving to hear him out. Perhaps this stranger could unlock the twisted tales of our ancestry. Before I could agree, a sudden screech of tires rattled me to my core. A car sped around the corner, its headlights carving through the dusk, and my instincts screamed at me to flee. But in that same breath, the realization hit me like a thunderclap: the ring was not just a remnant of our family's past, it was the key to something very much alive and breathing, something that now demanded reckoning. "Get back." I commanded, my voice firm as the vehicle approached at an alarming speed. My brother positioned himself to shield Lily, who stood frozen beside me. The stranger instinctively cringed, and in the chaos, my hand tightened around the small key, now a talisman of imminent destiny. I felt the pull of the ring, a connection forged not just by family, but by fates intertwined, and then, in that fleeting moment between action and decision, I was faced with a profound choice: to delve deeper into the mysteries of our family legacy or to retreat to the safety of ignorance. As the car slowed, I heard the distant sound of glass shattering again, mingling with the thunder of my heart. The storm had officially begun, and the only thing certain was that the truth was finally ready to surface. The screeching of the tires blended with the chaotic rhythm of my heart, a raw pulse that urged me to either fight or flee. As the headlights illuminated the scene before us, the world seemed to fracture, shards of uncertainty piercing through the fragile fabric of my reality. "Get back!" I shouted again, but my voice fell into the cacophony of fear and confusion. The stranger on the ground winced, trying to lift his head, while Lily's small body trembled beside me. My brother, ever the protector, took a step forward, his posture rigid. Then, the car came to a sudden stop, the engine purring softly in the ominous quiet that followed. Shadows poured from the vehicle as two figures emerged, both men clad in dark clothing, an unsettling urgency radiating from their every move. My mind raced, piecing together the threads of the night, unknown truths unraveling like the fraying edges of a tapestry. "What have we got here?" one of the men called out, his voice cold and sharp as he surveyed us. My brother instinctively drew closer to me and Lily, a protective barrier against the onslaught of danger. Before I could process threats or decisions, the other man pointed sharply at the stranger on the ground. "Get him!" The words dripped with authority, and I felt my stomach drop, a visceral instinct creeping into my veins. "Wait!" I yelled, fueled by a sudden medley of desperation and conviction. "He needs help. We need to." "They don't care," the figure on the ground rasped, his voice soaked with pain and urgency. "You have to listen to what I'm saying. They're after the ring. You cannot let them take it from you." My heart raced at the mention of the ring, an emblem of my family's dark past, now a weight that felt heavier with each passing moment. "I told you to stay back," my brother exclaimed, trying to grasp my arm as I teetered on a precipice of fear and newfound purpose. The ring felt like a ticking time bomb in my hand, urging me to decide what I was willing to risk for its secrets. Lily, clutching my leg, looked up at me with wide eyes filled with uncertainty. "What ring?" Her innocence wove seamlessly into the strained fabric of the moment, and I couldn't bear to shatter her world further. "Please," the stranger gasped again, his breath shallow. "They can help unlock everything, you just need to trust them." The tattooed man with a sneer approached the stranger, his contempt palpable. "We're here to clean up the mess. You've no business in this anymore." "I have every right." The stranger choked out, new energy coursing through him. "This is your family's legacy. You cannot let it die." His eyes bore into mine, igniting something deep within, a flicker of hope, a plea wrapped in urgency. Before I could blink, the man lunged at the first figure, and chaos erupted with the sudden ferocity of a storm. I instinctively grabbed Lily, pulling her behind me, while my brother reacted with primal instinct, stepping forward to protect us. The force of movement collided with adrenaline-fueled instincts as I watched the fight unfold, flashes of shadows and hoarse shouts morphing into indistinct forms. It was as if everything was happening in slow motion, the stranger, shifting colors and flickers of desperation, wrestling with choices that might define his existence. "Listen. Get to safety," the stranger shouted amidst the torrent, each word punctuated by the gritty sound of fists connecting with flesh. Just then, with a jolt, one of the men broke free from the struggle, and my breath hitched in my throat as his eyes locked onto mine, a predator calculating its prey. "You think this is a game? You have no idea what you're holding." Amidst growing panic, the weight of the key in my palm pressed into my skin, a hard reminder of the forgotten, the lost, and the buried fears that had lain dormant for far too long. The scene around me spiraled into chaos, and in that moment I made a choice, a decisive leap into uncertainty. I tightened my grip around the small key, feeling the electricity of its truth cascading through me. I would no longer be an unwitting participant in this twisted family saga. "Run, Lily!" I shouted, urging her to escape the rising tide of danger. But even as I turned to shield her, I felt the warmth of the stranger's words wash over me, words that could either lift me or drown me in the depth of ancestral secrets. "That I can help you," he cried out, urgency laced with an undercurrent of something darker. But before I could respond, my brother made a desperate move, lunging toward me and grasping my arm. Pulling me back, he whispered fiercely, "We need to go now," but as we turned to flee, I felt the weight of the world closing in, strings of fate tightening their grip. "No!" I shouted defiantly. "I won't let it end like this." As our feet shifted backward, retreating into the cover of night, I glanced back at the conflict unfolding behind us, hesitant to leave the man who had sought to guide me through this labyrinth of secrets, and as the first man turned away from the struggle, a single word broke the veneer of chaos, a name whispered just above the din: "Mom." It echoed in the air, reverberating through the depths of my heart, crashing down as the pursuit ramped up on every side. Choices swirled, truth stretched between heritage and the fierce protection of love I felt for Lily. And in that moment, I understood that what lay ahead would be a journey reshaping our very existence. As the shadows loomed, I couldn't shake the chilling realization that the ring was only the beginning, and the truth it concealed was a dark abyss teetering at the edge of our lives. As we thundered through the shadowy streets, my mind churned with a maelstrom of emotions, each unanswered question festering within me. My brother's grip was ironclad on my arm, pulling me closer as if he feared the darkness would swallow me whole if I slipped away. I could hear Lily's tiny gasps behind us, echoing my own panic. "Where do we go?" I whispered, the weight of the ring a constant reminder of the choice I had yet to confront. My brother's eyes darted around as if the trees were whispering secrets meant to pull him under. "Just focus on running," he breathed sharply, urgency cutting through every syllable. He glanced back, and I saw the flicker of dread etched across his brow. The night had turned from ominous to monstrous, shadows stretching and yawning hungrily as I allowed myself to look over my shoulder. The men were gaining on us, their silhouettes blending into the fabric of the dark, like thunderclouds swelling before a storm. I closed my eyes momentarily, forcing myself to breathe even as the cold tendrils of fear clutched tightly at my throat. Suddenly, I felt a tug at my leg. I looked down, and Lily's wide eyes beckoned me into a moment of clarity. "What was that about?" she asked, her voice small but piercing with innocence. The turmoil shrieked in me as I conjured an answer, the words turning to ash in my throat. "That man, he said something about a ring," I finally managed, my heart breaking a little at the grim truth. In this tangled web of our lineage, there were answers swirling around us, primal screams hovering just beneath the surface. "He was hurt, wasn't he?" Lily pressed on, her innocence a paradox to my troubled essence. "Were we supposed to help him?" I swallowed hard, the weight of the truth threatening to drown me in its depths. "Somewhere along the way, we all get hurt, Lil," I replied, squeezing her small hand in mine. "But right now, we need to find a place to hide." The distance behind us erupted in a cacophony of shouts, and my pulse quickened. They were relentless, those shadows marking our fate with each footfall, tracking our scent like wolves on the trail of prey. I pushed us forward, the instinct to shield my little sister dominating the fearful thoughts clawing at my mind. As we stumbled into an abandoned playground, the creaking metal of a swing set stirred memories of peace long lost. I crouched low, could hear the distant rustle of footsteps growing nearer, their electric tension crawling beneath my skin. I pressed my back against the wooden frame of the play structure, their footsteps an unsettling rhythm in my ears. "Do you think they'll find us?" Lily whispered, her expressive face darkened in worry, and I reached out instinctively, brushing her hair back from her forehead. "A small act of assurance in harrowing uncertainty. That I don't know," I confessed softly. It was the truth, and the weight of it sank heavily into the pit of my stomach. "But we have to be brave. Well, make it through." As the footsteps faded for a moment, the night wove a shroud of stillness around us. It was in the lull of chaos that I heard Ida's soft voice breaking the silence like a fragile thread of hope. Are you all right? A figure emerged from the shadows, cloaked in the darkness but illuminated by a warm aura of compassion. It was an elderly woman, her hands trembling with age yet unyielding in her concern. I saw you running. You look scared. My heart clenched against the unexpected kindness as I swallowed hard, wrestling with the mix of fear and vulnerability. We don't have much time, I stammered, glancing back toward the dark edges of the playground, half expecting the shadowed figures to emerge at any moment. Sometimes, kindness is the only currency worth counting, she replied softly, her gaze steady and unwavering. What are you running from? It felt absurd to spill our tumultuous reality to a stranger, but the absurdity of this journey had become my new normal. I took a breath, knowing I had a choice. Sharing the weight of my fears seemed both daunting and liberating. They took someone, I admitted, my voice trembling at the thought of the stranger left behind. And they want something from us, something we don't understand. Her brow furrowed, the gentleness of her expression now layered with understanding. The past has a way of reaching into our present. Sometimes, it finds us when we least expect it. At that moment, a connection sparked between us, a fragile thread that seemed to stitch together the pieces of our fragmented narratives. You don't know me, I whispered shamefully, yet you care. It's the soul that connects us, dear, she replied, her voice soothing like warm honey. But if you're running from shadows, you must light your own path. That we stood on the precipice of something unimaginable, an ethereal pause before the storm surged back to life. As the distance cracked with a ripple of shouts and thunderous footsteps, my heart raced once more. In just a moment, you may have to make an impossible decision, she said, her wise eyes locking onto mine with unwavering certainty. Do you trust the legacy you carry? Or will the darkness be too great? A pounding surged in my chest as her words tore through me. The weight of my family's secrets pressed in like a vice, each inhalation sharp with revelation. We had to act, and soon. In that fleeting moment of clarity, an explosive commotion racked the still night air, and I looked over my shoulder just in time to see a figure burst into the playground, a silhouette I recognized too well. Get down! I screamed, yanking Lily to the ground while the echoes of the past screamed louder than ever. Mom! The figure called out, a voice that shattered the earth beneath my feet. It felt like falling into a chasm I couldn't escape, and as I met the penetrating gaze of someone I thought lost forever, I felt a new wave of uncertainty sweep through my veins like a toxic tide. Why are you here? I gasped, grappling with solid ground that had become nothing but a memory soaked in fading light. The weight of the truth in that encounter could drown us all in the very legacy I didn't know whether to embrace or escape. Chaos reigned again, but amidst the tempest, a singular thought echoed insistently: honesty was a path graced with both fear and illumination, the only path forward, and the only way to rewrite our entwined destinies. The chaos around us seemed to assemble into a living entity, breathing tumult into the air as I crouched, heart in my throat, amidst the sweltering unrest. Mom! I breathed, the single word unraveling from my lips, both a question and a statement of disbelief. She emerged from the shadows, her disheveled hair catching faint slivers of moonlight, but there was a wildness in her eyes that I hadn't seen in years, a blend of desperation and fierce determination. Get away from them! She shouted, her voice fierce enough to cut through the suffocating darkness, drawing the attention of the figures that loomed behind her. The men had reappeared, their presence a suffocating fog that threatened to swallow us all. Mom, it's us! I pleaded, instinctively inching closer but feeling the gelidity settle like ice in my bones. What had forced her into this haunting night? What threads of anguish had sewn her into the very shadows we were trying to escape? Run! She screamed, her eyes darting anxiously toward the encroaching figures, yet they momentarily softened as they landed on me. You have to go. Your lives are at risk. But my brother started, but I hushed him, a surge of protectiveness igniting inside me. We can help you. I shouted back defiantly, desperate to breach the distance that threatened to pull us apart. I was yearning for the mother we'd lost, the tenderness of arms that had cradled us through simpler fears. In that suspended moment, her expression flickered, a brief crack in the fortress she had erected. Then, without warning, she turned on her heel, her silhouette swallowed by the darkness, plunging into the very peril that stalked us all. "Mom!" I cried out, the world spiraling into an abyss of confusion and dread. "Stay together," my brother ordered, his grip tightening on my arm. We looked at each other, understanding intertwining the fear in our hearts. But we couldn't just abandon her. Our family was meant to weather storms together. The men were drawing closer, voices rising in frantic urgency, drowning the insistent cries of my conscience. With a deep breath, I clutched Lily's hand tighter. "Follow me," I whispered, and together we darted deeper into the playground. A flicker of hope ignited within me as we veered toward a series of steep slides that glistened with dew in the dim light. "Where are we going?" Lily whimpered, her voice fragile but strong enough to pierce the uncertainty that clung to the night. "Somewhere safe," I assured her, though doubt gnawed at my core. As we tumbled into the darkness beneath the metal tunnel of a slide, I could hear the shouts grow nearer, the sharp edges of their words scraping against my skin. I wanted to turn back, to run to my mom's voice, but what if it was a trap? It could lead us into a labyrinth of anguish. In the narrow confines of the slide, I felt the air thicken with tension, but it also cradled us in a way I hadn't anticipated. We were together here, united in struggle, leaned close enough that I could feel Lily's rapid breaths match the frantic rhythm of my own. "Will we find her?" Lily asked, her voice trembling just a degree away from tears, but in her vulnerability lay a conviction I feared to quench. That I hesitated, caught in the duality of my love for her and the uncertain path that stretched far beyond the playground. "We will," I said, forcing a conviction into my voice that I did not yet possess, but could feel festering just beneath the surface. "Well, figure it out. We're strong together, but strength alone wouldn't be enough," and as I pressed my back to the hard surface of the slide, I colored with unease. There was nothing certain about this flight, only shadows chasing relentless echoes of our past. The wind whistled through the hollow metal, a muted song that could hardly recall innocence. And then, like a deft slice across the silence, I heard a faintest peal of laughter, a child's laughter drifting from the distance. "What is that?" Lily murmured, uncertainty tinged in her tone. "Just hold on," I whispered, my heart accelerating. There was familiarity in that laughter, a warmth that felt like home, and yet the hairs on the back of my neck prickled with unease. But before I could grasp the implication of what it meant, the world around us erupted once more into chaos. Shadows threatened to swallow the laughter whole, threads unraveling the hope it spun. "Come on," I urged, pushing us out from the slide's embrace just as the men emerged into the playground. They stood there, eyes glinting hungrily, the kind of predatory glimmer that sought to drown every flicker of hope. "Catch them!" one shouted, slicing through the night with instinctual urgency, as if our very existence was a game to them. The darkness descended in a flurry, and in that moment, clarity struck me with all the force of a tempest. This was more than just a chase, there were deep-seated secrets at stake, secrets that could shatter our fragile lives. But as we sprinted into the open, Lily tugged on my sleeve, her eyes wide and filled with wisdom far beyond her years. "What if we find the ring?" she asked, her words cascading like raindrops of revelation. "What if it shows us where to go next?" In the spark of her innocence, there was a flame of truth. The ring was a Biakona map etched within our legacy, and if it held the answers, then perhaps it could lead us to something even greater than fear. It could unveil the darkness overshadowing our past, a legacy worth embracing. And just as the shadows lunged, seeking to suffocate the glimmer surrounding us, I grabbed Lily's small hand and my brother's with renewed determination. We would not be swallowed up, we would defy the storm, and together we would unearth the roots tangled in the wildness of our history. As we dashed into the night, the horizon ahead flickering with possibilities, I grasped the hope anew, intertwined with danger and yet tinged with the promise of connection. But lurking just beneath the surface was a truth that continued to haunt. Even if we seized the ring, would it unlock the burdens we long carried, or collapse around us in horrifying revelation? And somewhere in that labyrinth of uncertainties, the laughter from the darkness echoed still, drawing nearer. The night felt alive around us, shadows frolicking among the remnants of laughter. With every step we took, the walls of our sanctuary felt thinner, allowing the weight of the world we were escaping to seep in. My heart pounded to a rhythm that mirrored the chaos, a symphony of desperation intertwined with flickers of hope. But as we sprinted forward, a chill crawled up my spine. Those chasing us were relentless, and even if we located the ring, would it liberate us or ensnare us deeper into the web of pain, over there? Lily exclaimed, pointing toward an old, forgotten merry-go-round, rusting under the moonlight. We should hide. My brother nodded, and without a second thought, we dashed to it. The metal creaked beneath our weight, almost like a feeble protest against the storm we had invited by choosing to stay. Crouching low behind the peeling paint, I risked a glance over the edge. The men were closing in, their figures shrouded in shadows, their intentions growing more sinister with every hushed conversation. They moved like smoke, swirling, wrapping around everything, searching. Do you think they can hear us? Lily whispered, her voice small yet steady. What if they catch us? I wanted to reassure her, to promise that everything would be fine, but the uncertainty gnawed at me like a feral beast. Just stay quiet, I whispered back, squeezing her hand tighter, our thumbs brushing in silent solidarity. Unable to quell my racing thoughts, I shifted my gaze to the horizon, searching for stars amid the dark clouds that loomed above us. In that moment of stillness, I felt the stirrings of something long buried within, a yearning not just for safety, but for understanding. Lily, I said, my voice low, do you remember the stories Mom used to tell us about the ring? Her eyes brightened for a fleeting moment, curiosity flickering through her fear. The one that glows in the dark. Yes, I said, a lump forming in my throat. She said it was special, had magic powers. Do you think it really does? She asked, her voice barely a whisper, as if the mention of it could summon the very magic itself. I think it might. And if it does, maybe it can help us find her, I replied, the certainty starting to settle in my mind like a fragile seed taking root. But a sudden crash rang out nearby, shattering our small cocoon of hope. My heart dropped as fear enveloped us once more. The men had spotted something in the distance and were now advancing. We couldn't stay here. We had to move, but where could we go? Just as panic was beginning to swell, a figure stepped into the fringes of the playground light. Startled, I strained to see who it was, hoping against hope that it was a friend. The uneven light revealed a boy, no older than 10, clutching a stick like a sword, and standing defiantly by a crumbling stone wall that edged the playground. Hey, you! You look like you're in trouble. He called out, a mixture of mischief and misapprehension lacing his words. I blinked, taken aback. Before I could respond, he continued, I know where the ring is. You need to follow me. Wait. I shouted, but he was already darting away, glancing back at us with desperate eyes. Lily tugged my arm. Should we go with him? This could be a trap, Lily, I grimaced, glancing nervously toward the approaching men. But the boy was already beckoning us with wild hand gestures, determination flaring in his eyes. It felt like an offering wrapped in a promise of escape. Maybe it's our only hope, my brother chimed in, his voice steadier than mine. We can't just sit here. So without weighing the consequences, we climbed off the merry-go-round and followed him, the darkness only whispering around us. The boy led us through a winding path shrouded by trees, the air thick with humid silence. What was his story? What did he know about the ring? Where are you taking us? I asked, my tone a mixture of curiosity and caution. The ring is in a place where the light meets the shadows, he replied cryptically, his eyes darting around, aware of dangers lurking behind every corner. A swell of adrenaline surged through me. There was something both surreal and electric about this encounter. What do you mean? I pressed, a desperate urgency rising within me. Suddenly, he stopped and pointed ahead, the glimmers of an old treehouse looming in the distance like a relic of forgotten childhood. There. I think it's up there. My heart sank. I remembered the tales Mom whispered at bedtime, tales about the secrets the treehouse held, stories that never truly felt like just stories. A hollow ache settled in my chest as memories surged, moments I could scarcely hold onto, and as we approached, I realized the truth lingering just beyond our reach. This treasure would not only unveil the past, it could split us open like a ripe fruit, exposing raw wounds we had hidden beneath the surface. Yet there was no turning back now. The boy looked at us earnestly as desperation and fear wrestled for space in his eyes. You guys really need to get there before they catch you. Trust me. We exchanged hurried glances, weighing the uncertainty of the boy against our eroding will to flee. Let's go. I finally said, a decision sparking courage within me. Together, we darted for the treehouse, hearts pounding in concert, feeling shadows pull at us like tidal waves seeking to drown our light, but just as we climbed the creaking ladder, voices echoed from the shadows behind us, calls slicing through the air like knives. Get them! A sinister voice boomed, and as I reached the top, I turned back to see figures emerging from the darkness, faces twisted with intent, hungering for secrets that lay bartered in blood. My heart raced, an echo of terror resonating through the soles of my feet. In that moment, I realized we were on the precipice of a truth that could erode the fragile bond holding us together. Would the ring shine light into our darkest corners, or would it unravel the threads of loyalty we had fought so hard to preserve? As we huddled, breathless in the treehouse, I could hear the laughter once more, somewhere in the distance, not a joyous sound, but a reminder of innocence lost, a haunting laughter that reverberated through the night, and deep inside me, the conviction hardened. I knew this was just the beginning. Unraveling the mystery of the ring would demand sacrifices, unveiling secrets we wished had remained buried forever. As the moon hovered, I could feel the weight of the world pressing down, and I couldn't shake off the feeling we were running out of time. The treehouse creaked as we tumbled inside, the wood aged and splintered beneath our weight. My pulse drumrolled in my ears, a frantic rhythm that matched the thumping of my heart. I turned to guarantee Lily was right behind me, just as the boy pointed frantically at a corner shrouded in shadow, where the flickering moonlight barely touched. Over there, he urged. It should be hidden beneath the floorboards. But my mind was swirling with apprehension. This whole situation felt stitched together by loose threads, and I couldn't shake the fear that we'd stepped into a trap. What if they can find us here? I whispered, my eyes flitting nervously toward the tiny window. The sound of footsteps grew louder, echoing ominously outside. Trust me, the boy insisted, his voice shaking yet earnest. They won't look up. They never do. Lily's small hand squeezed mine once again, grounding me amid the chaos. I thought about Mom's stories and the whispers of magic. Maybe the ring truly was here. There's no time to waste, I finally murmured, hoping my voice conveyed the same bravery I longed to feel. We knelt, brushing our hands against the dusty floorboards, peeling away layers of memories and dust. My heart raced with anticipation and dread as the boy helped lift a loose plank with crooked fingers. I could see Lily's expression shift between hope and despair, a microcosm of our shared unease. Then, a glimmer caught my eye. There! I gasped, almost reverently. It was small, about the size of a nickel, nestled in the darkness like a forgotten promise, a ring, with intricate patterns etched into its surface, glinting faintly as though alive. But before we could react, the cacophony outside erupted into a roar. The men were searching frantically, calling out to one another, their voices mingled with shouts that sent shivers down my spine. The sense of urgency enveloped us. Grab it! I shouted, panic ricocheting in my voice. We need to go. The boy didn't hesitate, he plucked the ring from its hiding place and thrust it into my hands, his own eyes wide with terror. I felt the cool metal press against my skin, a tiny weight that seemed impossibly heavy with implications. But as we scrambled to escape the treehouse, a chilling realization encapsulated my thoughts. What if this ring was more than an object? Could it be a bait, a symbol of something buried deep within our family history that I wasn't prepared to confront? As we climbed down with thoughts tangled in fear, disorientation hastened our exit, and I couldn't help but scan the treetops for escape routes. However, our feet barely touched the ground when the world turned monochrome, the colors of night washed away by blustered breaths. The realization dawned that I would have to reckon with more than just our pursuers. Go. Head that way. I yelled to Lily, motioning toward the thicket that flanked the playground. A sense of primal survival surged through me, yet the shadows that had always danced in the recesses of my mind now loomed larger than ever. Would running make it worse, or would facing our fears help us find a way out? The boy stood with an intensity that made him seem older than his years. You have to activate it. The magic won't work unless you believe. What are you talking about? I barked, frustration gnawing at me. I was so worn from running, from holding everything together. I didn't have the space to contemplate the words of a child who hardly seemed to understand what he was in the midst of. Then time twisted. We could hear the men's voices emerging from the shadows, echoing closer, weaving around us like predatory whispers. In that moment, I felt like a puppet caught in a pull between light and dark, yearning to grasp our lifeline while knowing it might shatter what little security we had left. Just hold on. I screamed, fumbling with the ring, searching its surface for answers that maybe didn't exist. I needed something to save us, some flicker of clarity in this murky sea of chaos. And as I slipped it onto my finger, a jolt of energy pulsed through me unexpected, reminiscent of warmth from a long-lost dream. It was as if the cosmos realigned at that moment, the darkness receding just enough for me to glimpse what lay within the hidden corners of my heart, yet the moment faded as quickly as it materialized. Hope intertwined with uncertainty, twisting deeper than I had ever realized. What have I done? I murmured, breathless, a question never meant for the boy but echoing louder, reverberating through me and stealing whatever scant stacks of courage remained. Suddenly, the shadows split apart, and I turned to see a figure approaching at a distance, one that caused my chest to tighten painfully. Mom. I whispered, the fragile line between reality and my yearning blurring. No, it was not her. The sorrow that swept over me was intertwined with awe as I realized it was only a trick of the light, an illusion against the backdrop of anxiety rising within me. There remained so many layers I did not understand, pieces of a puzzle tightly stitched in darkness, each thread leading deeper into the past than I dared to explore. I felt the jagged edges of secrets yet to be revealed. To fight, I would have to look beyond the immediate fear and gasping uncertainty surrounding us, and as the figure inched closer, clarity slipped further away, like grains of sand through my fingers, ushering in a new wave of fear. What if this journey would strip away the very foundations I'd built? What if the ring opened doors to secrets even more devastating than the pulses of darkness we already faced? I looked to Lily and the boy, and for a moment, something warm flickered amidst the chaos. I yearned for light amidst the shadows. But that flicker faded as quickly as it came, and with it returned the chilling question, what awaited us on the other side of that ring? The thicket throbbed with the heavy thrum of our hearts, the weight of branches entwined around our ankles like the hands of ghosts holding us back. Panic clawed its way up my throat as the figurine indistinct shadow grew sharper against the darkness, its outline twisting through the trees like a wisp of smoke coiling in on itself. Run! I hissed, urgency punctuating my words. But it felt as if my feet were stuck in the mud, pulling me backward when all I craved was to surge ahead. I gripped Lily's hand tight, both for reassurance and the desperate hope that she could pull me along, but the boy shifted, his expression a mixture of panic and comprehension. You have to trust the ring. It binds the past and present. It can guide you, he urged, his eyes earnest like bright beacons in the night. You can't run from what you need to face. I barely had time to process his words. The men were drawing nearer, their voices intermingled with the night sounds, the rustle of leaves that transformed into an echo of footsteps thundering through my mind. What does that even mean? I cried out, frustration boiling over. I needed tangible actions, not riddles, and yet something about the ring on my finger felt more like an anchor than a lifeline. How can a child's toy save us? Not a toy, it's a key. The boy's voice rose above the clamor, his conviction fierce. Let it show you the truth. I can't. I gasped, anguish bleeding through my certainty. I can't afford any more truths. I closed my eyes briefly, a desperate squeeze of the elation I wished to remember, the days of laughter at home before everything turned shadowed. And yet as I stood there, momentarily suspended in despair, the ring pulsed against my skin, warm and insistent, a beat separate from my own fears. As if it possessed a will of its own, guiding not just my hand but my heart as well. Do it for Lily, the boy urged, his eyes locked onto my face, mirroring my turmoil. I turned to Lily, her small frame trembling at my side, filled with a mix of confusion and trust. My heart sank further. What would it do to her if I failed? I am lost, I admitted, the words spilling from me like water breaking past the dam. What if uncovering the truth digs deeper wounds? What if it's worse than I ever imagined? It's better to know than to live in the dark, the boy pressed gently, his tone softer this time, as if reminding me of what we all desperately sought, a lifeline in this storm of confusion. I promise, sometimes secrets can heal too. With a shaky breath, I glanced down at the ring still nestled upon my finger. Its surface shimmered with intricate designs, a dance of light that seemed to respond to my rising insecurities. No bravado swelled within me, instead, I felt a whisper of determination through the binds of fear. Fine, I murmured, willing myself to believe, even if the outcome brought scathing truths. I stepped forward, feeling the ancient wood beneath my feet creak up through my legs and settle in a grounded stomp. Show me. The world around us shifted like the turning pages of an old book, the landscape bending with shimmering echoes of memories spilling from the ring. Shadows flickered at the edges of my vision, tangled shapes spinning through time until faces I recognized bloomed like flowers in the night. There stood my mother, youthful and radiant, laughter pouring from her lips, harmonizing with the ripples of light surrounding her. And Thena's shadowy figure, dark and menacing, lurking just beyond her glow. A chill ran through me. Was this the source of her fear? The specter remained indistinct, but its presence filled me with a sense of dread that curled my spine. My heart raced even faster as I, entangled in this vivid projection, faced my past. No, no, no. I yelled, pushing against the vision presenting itself, clutching Lily's hand tighter, whose grip became my anchor. The boy beside me remained unmoving, eyes fixed on the scene as it played out. Look closer. He said urgently. You have to see. As I gazed into the swirling memories, the warmth of sunlight touched my cheek and I saw my mother back. When she was unchained by worry. We always must make sacrifices for those we love, she murmured, but her words warped into an echo of regret. Suddenly, memories flowed like a stream, darkness flooding as I saw her slip away, the distant call of fear, loss, the crescent-shaped scar of betrayal spreading across our history like a well-mapped forest. Time collapsed again, everything swirling into coherence. I understood the truth summoned was more than fractured secrets, it was about generational burdens, trapping her, and now trapping me. As I staggered back, overwhelmed, my breath shallow, the boy caught my eye. It's all right to be scared, he said gently. But if you can face this, the magic can help you defeat the shadows that remain, would it? I wondered, my voice trembling, aching as the edges of my heart felt as if they were being pried apart. Would it truly help us uncover the darkness that haunts us? Then, just as the lingering images slipped away, a chilling scream sliced through the night. A shout of my name echoed, but my voice. They were here, closing in on us. No. I cried, scrambling away, but terror held me immobilized, memories clawing at the corners of my mind. The boy's hand gripped mine tight, pulling me back toward the moment, but I could feel its inescapable reality wrapping tighter around my throat. Was I willing to confront this malignancy for Lily's sake? Help me. I pleaded, my eyes darting around for escape. But the living shadows around us closed in as the reality of our existence twisted in on us like a vice, moving ground beneath us vanishing like smoke as I screamed out into the unknown. And then, in the heart of that suffocating darkness, I whispered a name that would forever alter our fates. Mom. The world fell silent as my voice echoed through the darkness. The shadows tightened, my heart racing in the stillness that followed, a labyrinth of memory threatening to swallow me whole. But even in the depths of despair, the warmth of the ring pulsed against my skin, and with it came a reminder of the love that had once anchored our family. As if summoned by my cry, a glow began to materialize in the void. Swirling tendrils of light unfurled like delicate ribbons, illuminating the remnants of a forgotten past. I felt the boy beside me shift, his faith unyielding as he grasped my hand tighter. Somewhere in that brilliance, I sensed movement, a figure began to emerge from the shadows. Mom. My voice was a whisper, trembling like a flickering flame. Yes, I was afraid, but I felt the tendrils of hope threading back into the fabric of our lives, binding us together like a family. Is that really you? The light carved a path through the darkness, revealing my mother's familiar silhouette. She looked as I remembered from the strands of my childhood, laughter bubbling from her lips yet tinged with sorrow. "My love," she whispered, and at once, my foundation trembled. "I have waited for this moment, how?" I stammered, overwhelmed by the torrent of emotion crashing against me. "We thought we lost you." I thought. Memories of fear and longing surged, crashing like waves. "Why did you leave?" Her expression was soft yet filled with a depth that wrapped around me, reminding me that even shadows have their stories. "I had to protect you. There are truths hidden within our family that carry both light and darkness. I was afraid that revealing them would only add to the burdens we already shared. You should have trusted us." I cried out, the weight of disappointment pressing down on us. "We could have faced it as a family." A faint smile flickered on her lips. "I was wrong to think you weren't ready. The ring chose you, my dear. It is a connection to our past, to the love we shared before shadows wove their way into our lives." As if sensing my turmoil, the boy squeezed my hand fiercely. "You need to confront the fears," he urged gently, "to see the truth will set you free." The intensity of his words bolstered my wavering spirit. With the key of light now within reach, the only thing standing between us and the echoing darkness was our inability to let go of the pain. That I turned back to the figure of my mother, who stood like a bridge that spanned the darkest waters. "What must I do?" I asked, my voice steadier now, flaring with determination. "You've already taken the first step," she encouraged. "Face the shadows, let them unfold, and in their unveiling lies the redemption that is yours to seize. Together, we can redefine our legacy." Her smile filled the air, imbued with lost warmth and unwavering belief. But just then, darkness spilled into the light, the echoes of the men closing in, tightening like a noose around our purpose. My heart raced as I realized time was slipping from our grasp. I could still hear the distant shouts, stirring my senses with urgency. "Choose." The boy urged, a flicker of desperation in his eyes as the world behind threatened to suffocate us. "You can't run forever," drawing from the essence of my mother's love or courage, her warmth. I nodded fiercely. "I will confront this. We will confront this, together." The ring glimmered in acknowledgement, illuminating strands of blurred memory, lightfully transforming fear into resolve. "How do I begin?" I asked, clutching Lily's little hand, squeezing it as I sought solace in her presence. My brother, steadfast beside me, mirrored my conviction. "By understanding your pain, by embracing those memories," she answered as the shadows closed in menacingly. "All those years buried beneath trinkets and secrets, they are the roots of your strength." As the darkness shifted like a nightmarish tide, I remembered the laughter, the warmth swept beneath the surface, shadows that, until now, had held me captive. It was time to bring them to the light, unraveling fears woven of regret. "Let them come," my voice rang out, strong and resolute. "We will break free from our chains." My mother, the boy, and my brother stood with me, forming a bastion of strength against the chaos. The ring pulsed like a heartbeat, as if thrumming with its own life for a light unfurling against the dark, tethering my heart to the truth. And when they finally surged forward, their figures looming ominously, I stood firm as the faces of fear shifted into those of family memories, swirling around meth echoes of laughter morphing into whispers of bittersweet remembrance. There were shouts, accusations too, loss, a reminder of the love we had buried together. But with every shadow that emerged, I embraced it. Together we reclaimed every piece, allowing the pain to surface. "Mom," I cried, "I forgive you. We forgive you." The words tumbled out, free-flowing, bringing the light back, piercing through the darkest fragments frozen in time. "We can be whole again." A brilliant illumination burst from the ring, enveloping our circle, dispelling the shadows and bathing us in warmth. And for every face that emerged in the darkness, each one filled with turmoil, I accepted their pain, and casting my fears aside, I unraveled the web that sought to entrap my family. As the shadows began melting away, dissipating into translucent wisps of memory, I felt weight lift from my heart. The truth collapsed around me and rebuilt anew, forming the lattice of our life, binding us not through pain but regeneration through acceptance and love. And in that moment, where pain once lingered, I felt the rhythm of forgiveness take root, a powerful sense of closure burgeoning from the ashes of despair, rekindling bonds I thought forever lost. The world around started shifting once more, but I stood steady, my family beside me, and through it, I could feel blooming joy spilling from hearts that had chosen to heal together, every heartbeat humming a melody of freedom. With the last echoes of anguish fading into the twilight, I took a deep breath. We were no longer lost in the shadows, the past no longer held dominion over our present. We had faced the storm and survived its tumult, emerging brighter and more united than before. As we stepped further into the tender embrace of dawn, I turned to my family, heart soaring. Together, we are unstoppable, I said, and with that, I held on more tightly to every piece of them. The sun warmed my face, the light kissing beautiful memories where laughter roamed fierce and free, where love reigned supreme. This is only the beginning. Those shadows may linger, they shall never extinguish the fire of those we hold dear. In love, we had created our new legacy, one of healing, of acceptance, and of courage. We would carry forth together, hand in hand, the echoes of the past, now but whispers in the light, and in that moment, I realized the truth was in the journey, and it bound us closer than ever before. What follows is our dance, unburdened by the past. The last line of our shared story, lined in hope, is, "In love, we find our way home."